Welcome to the Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. On the Snoozecast, we read excerpts from public domain works and occasionally original stories. We'd like to thank our listeners. If you enjoy our show, please share it with a friend. The best place to listen to us is on our website, snoozecast.com. From there, you'll be able to download or play single episodes without having to change any autoplay settings on your device or in your podcast directory. This episode is supported by Clothes Fresh Out of the Dryer. Tonight, I'll be reading a Snoozecast original called What Murfee Remembered. In this short story, Murfee is a dog who lives in a city apartment building with his 2 humans. He has something important on the tip of his mind that he spends his day trying to remember. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. Murfee, the dog, had something very important to do today, but he couldn't remember what it was. It was early morning, and he was waiting by the door for the man to grab the leash and say, "Want to go out?" Most of what the man said didn't carry any real significance, but Murfee always tried to listen for the important bits. Wait a second, Murfee thought. Maybe this was the important thing. Going out with the man in the morning. Yes, that did make sense. After all, the man was often very forgetful, and some mornings it seemed like he'd completely overlook Murfee as he rushed around, getting ready and muttering, "Late for work." Of course, the man never did forget. But perhaps that was only because Murfee diligently reminded him every morning by sitting close to the door and punctuating the man's sentences with some very mournful sighs. Murfee closed his eyes, content that he had remembered the important thing he had to do today. In that split second, the man had clasped the eyelet on the end of the leash to the metal ring on Murfee's collar. "Come on, Murph, let's go out," the man said. Boy, he must really be late for work this morning, Murfee thought. They quickly took the what floor to the ground, and it was really a marvelous thing, actually. The man lived in the sky, but it was very easy for him to get to the ground where most of the things Murfee cared about were. All they had to do was enter this box that seemingly made other humans and dogs appear at random, although Murfee felt that he was beginning to notice a pattern. It was a cold morning, and it had just started to drizzle. Murfee squinted his eyes as the man opened the door and wind whipped across his face. The man didn't seem in the mood to make it a leisurely outing, and before long Murfee turned back toward the direction of home. Once inside, the man hung up the leash and Murfee sauntered over to his bed, circled once, and lay down. Murfee had given a good shake before getting back on the what floor, and was pleased his fur was no longer wet. Murfee could still feel the residual warmth in his bed from when he had originally gotten up. In the kitchen, the man was now pouring food into Murfee's bowl. This was often a very worrisome moment for Murfee. What if the man had decided to leave before calling him to eat? What if the man decided he wanted the food for himself? After all, the man did eat a lot more than Murfee by all accounts. What if, when Murfee got over to his bowl, there was nothing? Wait a second, Murfee thought. Maybe this was the Murfee, the man said. Time to eat. Murfee leapt forward, unaware of the forces that drove him. During his brief gallop and subsequent scarfing, nothing seemed to concern him. When Murfee was done licking the last morsel off of his soft gray muzzle, he took a quick assessment of his surroundings and noticed the man was gone. This did not surprise him, although it was often saddening. Some mornings the man would stay instead of leaving. The man was quite different on these special mornings, and Murfee recognized a noticeably more relaxed expression on his face. This attitude adjustment also seemed to translate into a longer time playing fetch and its many variations. Again, Murfee felt like he might be coming close to being able to predict what days the man would stay home and what days the man would leave. But the complete solution continued to elude him. Murfee relaxed for a moment, although it would be a long time, and I mean a very, very long time. Eventually, the man would come back to take Murfee out again for the evening. Murfee stared at the carpet for a moment. Was there a piece of food there? No, just fuzz. Murfee sighed. How long would it be? Wait a second, Murfee thought. The woman. The woman. How could he forget? Perhaps the woman would know what to do. Murfee zoomed down the narrow hallway and announced his presence loudly in the bedroom by bopping his head against the half-open door, sending it flying back against the rubber stopper. It made a very satisfying boing-yoing noise Murfee always liked, and perhaps the man and the woman appreciated it as well. The bed was low to the ground, and Murfee dived his head under the cover, keeping all four paws firmly on the carpet. He knew not to jump on the bed because he was not welcome there. Definitely not. No matter how much time he thought had passed, the reaction from the man and the woman was always the same. Being able to stick his head Under the covers was an unfair compromise, but Murfee didn't push the issue. The woman said, "Murfee, go away." But Murfee knew she did not mean go away, the way the man meant go away. The reason Murfee knew this was because the woman continued to stroke his head, but the man would always just cross his arms and stare. I'm up, the woman said, along with some other nonsensical ramblings. She directed Murfee to get out of her way for a little while by way of a wrist flick. Murfee obliged. She walked slowly out to the kitchen, and Murfee noticed she smiled when she saw a cup on the counter, steam rising from its surface. She walked over to the window and took a couple of sips. After the woman was awake and the man was gone, there was a fair amount of time before anything important happened. Oh, sure, sometimes the woman would decide this was a beach day, and Murfee would get to go to his favorite place in the whole world, and I mean it was really outstanding. The sand, the surf, However, those days were exceedingly rare, and Murfee didn't find it to be prudent to think that every day might be a beach day. Plus, it was still raining outside, and beach days never happen when it's raining. Murfee was almost positive. Murfee drifted in and out, vaguely aware of the presence of the woman as she moved about the apartment. He heard her pour some food for herself, make another cup of coffee, and Murfee's eyelids felt heavy. How could that be? There was still something important he had to do today. Oh, well, Murfee thought. It was a busy morning. Perhaps I'll just take a... Hello? The woman said, followed by some gibberish. Then she paused. Then she said more gibberish. Murfee opened his eyes gradually, although he could already easily tell that this hello wasn't meant for him. For one, the woman wasn't even near him. She was sitting at her desk in the corner of the room, staring at a screen. Murfee could see flashes of light and changing patterns on the surface of it, but he couldn't fathom why the woman spent most of her day looking at it. His information on the subject was fragmented, but what he could piece together was that staring and talking to the screen was what the woman did for work. Down, the woman said. Murfee straightened up upon hearing a word he knew very well, but the woman had said it in between a bunch of nonsense words, so again Murfee realized it wasn't meant for him. The woman paused again, moved her fingers in such a way that they made those satisfying little clicks, and began speaking nonsense again. This would go on for a while. Eventually she would say, "Goodbye." Then there would be a fair amount of silence before she said, "Hello," again, and would intermittently talk to the screen. Murfee listened to the rain thrum the roof. It was a nice sound, and he was glad to hear it along with the drone of the heater that had just kicked on. He closed his eyes. He was warm, and he felt safe in his bed. So he flipped over onto his back and bared his faded belly to the ceiling while stretching out his limbs. Murphy was sure he hadn't dozed off, but he must have, because the woman was standing in front of him, wearing rain boots and a blue jacket. Wait a second, Murphy thought. A walk. Maybe this was the important thing he had to do today. Go out for a walk in the middle of the day with the woman. Murphy, the woman said, smiling, let's go for a walk. This must be it, Murphy thought. He was very excited. Going for a walk was quite a step up from just going out, like he did with the man in the morning. Walks generally lasted longer, Murphy noted, and they didn't follow a strict path, like just going out. They took the what floor to the ground, and Murphy was appreciative that the air outside had warmed considerably from the morning. This certainly made being in the rain a much more pleasurable experience. They moved briskly. The woman's boots splashed through the little puddles that were scattered across the sidewalk. After walking a couple of blocks, they took a sharp right turn, and Murphy instantly recognized that today they would be heading to the park. Good choice, he determined. Murphy caught a whiff of the damp earth as they entered the park and felt enlivened. He breathed deeply. The woman took him through the trees, and Murphy was keenly aware of the presence of each and every squirrel that was scurrying across the tree limbs to avoid the rain. If only the woman would let him, he was positive that he would be able to catch them. At no point had Murphy thought beyond what he would do in the event of actually catching a squirrel, but those kinds of details were probably best left explored in the moment. Murphy did imagine, though, if he were able to catch a squirrel, this would make the woman very pleased, as Murphy believed the woman did not have the tenacity or speed for squirrel catching. Alas, they never approached the squirrels directly, a severe oversight on the woman's part. Enough time had passed that Murphy realized they would now be heading back. On the path home, up ahead a little bit and coming in the opposite direction, Murphy saw a dog he recognized. Murphy guessed that maybe the woman knew the dog too, or at least the person who was with the dog, because he started to wave at the woman as they approached each other. They were close enough now that Murphy could see the person had bright little blue eyes that seemed to say to Murphy, "Everything's fine, pal." And Murphy recognized him finally. It was the old man. The woman would often run into the old man during these midday walks. Murphy knew the dog's name was Molly, even though he had no way of displaying this knowledge to any parties involved. Just how Murphy was a good boy. Murphy had known Molly was a good girl. Murphy and Molly said hello, and the woman and the old man said hello, and of course some other inconsequential vocalizations. A crack of thunder made Molly jump, and Murphy looked around for the source of the disturbance. The rain picked up considerably and propelled the foursome to say goodbye, perhaps quicker than otherwise, and soon the woman and Murphy were back inside. The woman had made Murphy wait by the door as she got a towel and a brush. She took her time grooming him, and he relished every moment. Considering all the excitement, Murphy was sure the woman wouldn't mind if he dozed off a bit back in bed as she got back to saying hello to her flashing screen. There really didn't seem like there was anything to do but this. In fact, it was very important that he do it now, considering how tired he was. This must be it, Murphy thought as he took in a long breath. The important thing, taking a nap after a walk. He slept, yet every now and again he cracked an eye open to make sure that, well, he wasn't exactly positive what he was on the watch for, but he knew it was his duty to watch out for things in general. This, he was certain, the man and the woman appreciated. Well, maybe that was the important thing, Murphy thought. Watch out for the man and the woman. Yeah, it was hard to do, especially with that rain falling all day and the sound of the heater blowing through the apartment still, and his bed being so cozy and soft. He closed his eyes again. "Hey, buddy, let's go," the man said. He was kneeling down by Murphy. When did the man get home? Murphy was so happy to see him, but he was still so tired. In a half-daze, the man and Murphy went out one more time. Murphy had a bit more pep, eating his last meal for the night when they got back inside for the last time. But after the food settled deep in his belly, he felt nourished and drowsy. The man and woman talked for a while as they ate their own meal at the table. They smiled and laughed, and Murphy watched them feeling content. They cleaned up and then sat on the couch. "Murphy," the woman said. Murphy knew what the woman was calling him for. It was the best part of the day. It was actually, "This is the important thing," Murphy said. And this time, he knew he was right. The woman patted her hand on the cushion, and Murphy climbed up as gracefully as he could. The man rested his hand on his scruff and scratched the back of his neck lazily. The woman stroked his head, and they both said very nice things to him, although he wasn't quite sure what they specifically meant. Murphy realized that this was his favorite thing in the world. It was actually even better than beach day, or thinking about how he would catch those squirrels. Lying here on the couch with the man and the woman being very nice to him at the same time. This was so important. Murphy really hoped that he would be able to do it again tomorrow. He closed his eyes and thought about nothing other than the warmth that cradled him to sleep.